Right now, the United States is standing on the absolute brink of an unprecedented global and economic catastrophe. Iranian military officials are claiming hundreds of American troops have been killed or severely wounded in a massive, sweeping wave of retaliatory strikes. As the fog of war thickens, the mainstream media is focusing entirely on the explosions. But they are completely ignoring the massive financial shockwaves. These hidden economic shockwaves are about to violently hit your bank account, your investment portfolio, and your personal tax bill. Welcome to Tax Hack Pro. We usually focus strictly on the tax code, real estate, and personal wealth. But when the global energy supply is under direct military attack and the United States enters a multi-trillion-dollar conflict, your everyday financial survival is immediately placed on the line. If you want to understand the forensic truth behind these military strikes, the absolute fate of the global oil markets, and exactly how to legally protect your wealth from the coming wave of wartime inflation, you need to subscribe to Tax Hack Pro right now. We give you the unfiltered financial intelligence that the mainstream networks completely refuse to broadcast. The Iranian retaliation and energy weaponization. Let us break down exactly what the Iranian military is currently claiming, because if these numbers are accurate, it represents one of the absolutely most devastating days for the American military in modern history. According to official spokespersons for the Iranian Central Command, their forces have launched a highly coordinated, multi-front assault directly targeting premier American military assets stationed throughout the volatile Persian Gulf region. The Iranian military command boldly and publicly claims that an astonishing 220 United States soldiers and senior commanders were either killed or seriously injured during these sudden, overwhelming ballistic missile and drone strikes. One of the most dramatic and terrifying incidents reportedly occurred in the small island nation of Bahrain, located right near the highly fortified headquarters of the United States Navy's legendary Fifth Fleet. The Fifth Fleet is the absolute crown jewel of American naval projection in the Middle East, responsible for keeping the critical shipping lanes completely open and aggressively deterring regional aggression. Iranian officials are boldly stating that 21 American service members were tragically killed and several others were severely injured when their specialized munitions bypassed advanced base air defenses. But the assault absolutely did not stop in Bahrain. At the exact same time, another massive, highly coordinated strike reportedly hammered the strategic Al Dhafra air base located in the United Arab Emirates. Al Dhafra is not just a standard military outpost. It serves as a massive, critical hub for United States air operations, intelligence gathering, and stealth fighter deployments across the entire Middle East. Iranian state sources are loudly claiming that around 200 American military personnel were killed or wounded during the brutal assault on this specific base. While the United States Department of Defense is heavily and aggressively restricting the flow of official casualty reports as they meticulously assess the battle damage, the sheer, unprecedented scale of the Iranian claims is sending absolute shockwaves through the global geopolitical landscape. If you are wondering how this military conflict thousands of miles away is going to directly and painfully impact your daily life and your financial security, you need to look directly at the water. Iran also proudly announced that its specialized naval and aerospace forces successfully targeted and struck a United States-owned commercial oil tanker navigating the northern part of the Persian Gulf. By aggressively expanding the physical battlefield directly into the region's most vital, heavily trafficked maritime corridors, Iran is effectively and purposely weaponizing the global energy supply chain against the American consumer. The Persian Gulf and the heavily contested Strait of Hormuz are the absolute ultimate economic choke points of the modern world. Nearly 20% of the world's total global oil supply physically flows through this narrow waterway every single day. By targeting American oil tankers, Iran is sending a massive, undeniable warning to the global financial markets. If our regime falls, we will take the entire global economy down with us. Global oil prices are violently reacting to these direct strikes, and the immediate, painful ripple effect will be heavily felt at your local gas station, in the soaring cost of transported consumer goods, and in a massive, devastating resurgence of sticky inflation. When baseline inflation aggressively spikes during a wartime economy, the federal government is heavily forced to extract more wealth from the middle class to fund the exploding, multi-trillion-dollar defense budget. This is exactly why you must subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are completely dedicated to giving you the forensic financial intelligence you need to proactively shield your assets, legally minimize your massive tax exposure, and successfully navigate the highly chaotic economic years ahead. Hit that subscribe button so you do not get completely crushed by the hidden financial costs of this massive global conflict operation Epic Fury and the human toll. To truly understand how the region spiraled into this chaotic, bloody abyss, we have to look back at the highly classified, unprecedented military operation that started it all just days ago. These massive Iranian retaliatory attacks come amid a rapidly intensifying, full-scale war that officially erupted when the United States and Israel launched a historic, devastating new round of joint military strikes on the Islamic Republic. The United States military formally dubbed this massive offensive operation Epic Fury. This was absolutely not a minor surgical skirmish. In the first 12 hours alone, the combined Allied forces dropped nearly 900 precision-guided munitions on sovereign Iranian territory, directly targeting heavily fortified nuclear enrichment facilities, advanced ballistic missile production factories, and elite leadership compounds. But the most monumental, world-altering outcome of Operation Epic Fury was the absolute decapitation of the Iranian regime. Global intelligence reports confirmed that the initial wave of high-speed precision strikes successfully targeted a heavily guarded compound in downtown Tehran, resulting in the immediate death of Iran's longtime supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Alongside the supreme leader, the strikes reportedly wiped out a massive layer of Iran's top military brass. In response to this historic assassination, the remaining commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps did not hesitate. The sky above the Middle East was completely filled with Iranian suicide drones and heavy ballistic missiles aggressively fired toward United States military installations scattered across several neighboring countries, while the physical battlefield violently expands across the deserts and waterways of the Middle East. The deep, agonizing human cost of this massive conflict is already being painfully felt thousands of miles away in the United States. At the solemn, highly guarded grounds of Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, grieving families gathered in the biting cold as the physical remains of 6 brave American soldiers, killed earlier in the week, were finally returned home. This somber arrival ceremony, officially known within the military as a dignified transfer, is one of the absolute most solemn, heavily respected traditions in the entire United States Armed Forces. Standing stoically on the cold tarmac during the deeply emotional ceremony was United States President Donald Trump, honoring the ultimate sacrifice of the troops. These 6 soldiers had been tragically killed earlier in the rapidly escalating conflict during a highly precise Iranian suicide drone strike that hit their logistics position in Kuwait. They were deeply dedicated members of the 103rd Sustainment Command, a highly specialized United States Army Reserve unit based out of Iowa that actively supplies ammunition, fuel, and critical rations to all American combat forces operating across the entire region. Later in the day, President Trump openly described the incredibly heavy, emotional weight of the moment, calling it a very sad day and heavily praising the deep resilience and immense pride of the families of the fallen soldiers. When a prominent reporter asked the president if witnessing the agonizing return of fallen Americans made him think differently about aggressively going ahead with this massive war, President Trump firmly pushed back against any narrative of hesitation. He confidently stated that the United States is winning the war by a lot and has successfully decimated their whole evil empire. He boldly declared that the military has accomplished more in 1 week than anyone thought possible, wiping out the Iranian Navy, their Air Force, and deeply crippling their ballistic missile and suicide drone capacity. When pressed on the tragic reality of military casualties, the president offered a blunt, deeply sobering assessment, stating that deaths are an incredibly sad, unavoidable part of war, as the bombs continue to violently fall. United States President Donald Trump has explicitly stated that he has absolutely zero intention of actively negotiating with whatever fractured, radical leadership remains in power in Tehran. Administration officials explicitly detailed the highly aggressive, absolutely unacceptable demands that the Iranian diplomats had previously made, including their open bragging about possessing highly enriched, weapons-grade fuel enough to immediately construct at least 11 nuclear bombs. The administration has definitively proved that the United States holds maximum military leverage, and they are absolutely not looking to settle right now. The macroeconomic threat to your wealth. This brings us directly back to you, the hardworking American taxpayer, and exactly why you must deeply understand the massive macroeconomic consequences of this historic war. When the United States enters a massive, trillion-dollar military conflict, the global financial system completely rewrites its absolute rules overnight. the massive destruction of Iranian oil infrastructure, combined with the extreme, highly dangerous volatility in the Strait of Hormuz, is practically guaranteeing a massive, historic spike in global energy prices. When the baseline price of crude oil skyrockets, absolutely every single product in the American supply chain becomes exponentially more expensive to transport. Highly sticky, aggressive inflation is about to make a massive, deeply painful comeback. And exactly how does the federal government traditionally pay for massive, unexpected overseas wars and out-of-control inflation? They aggressively target the American middle class through stealth taxation, aggressive bracket creep, and the quiet elimination of critical wealth-building deductions. When the government needs to fund a trillion-dollar war, they do not simply send you a bill in the mail. They use the hidden tax of inflation to slowly drain your purchasing power, and they rely on aggressive bracket creep to push your stagnant wages into higher tax brackets without passing any new tax laws. They actively let the invisible hand of inflation do their dirty work. Furthermore, they will quietly begin targeting long-term capital gains, utilizing the chaos of global conflict to justify taking a massive percentage of the equity you have built in your home and your retirement accounts. If you're sitting in cash while the global energy markets explode, you are actively losing money every single second of the day. You must transition your portfolio into hard assets, commodities, and highly strategic tax-sheltered vehicles that offer maximum protection against bureaucratic overreach. If you want to ensure that your personal portfolio survives this massive geopolitical storm, and if you want to learn the exact legal tax loopholes the ultra-wealthy use to protect their capital during a wartime economy, you must subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are constantly analyzing the direct intersection of global events and the United States tax code so you can safely stay 3 steps ahead of the government and the highly volatile stock market. The war in the Middle East is absolutely no longer just a distant foreign policy issue. It is a direct, immediate, and highly severe threat to your personal financial stability. As the conflict aggressively escalates, the government will inevitably seek new, highly aggressive ways to extract revenue from your everyday paycheck to fully fund the military-industrial complex. By subscribing to Tax Hack Pro, you are arming yourself with the absolute best, most highly forensic financial education available today. Do not let the chaos of global conflict permanently destroy the generational wealth you have worked your entire life to build. Hit that subscribe button, carefully secure your assets, and aggressively prepare your portfolio for the turbulent, highly unpredictable economic times ahead. We will continue to monitor the massive financial fallout of Operation Epic Fury, and we will see you in the next deep dive financial audit.